Slave. Barbarian. Warrior.
Governor.
Thief. Conan.
Accept your God, a man of great strength. Conqueror, one to crush the snakes of the earth. Kill!
Purveyors of their own death.
He's evil, a sorcerer who can summon demons.
Day of Doom is here! What daring! What arrogance! I salute you.
Out of an age undreamed of comes the most incredible adventurer of all. The man they call Conan the Barbarian. Coming to a theater near you from Universal Pictures.
Hello, and welcome to a heavy early episode of Cinema de Fromage. As you can see, I'm wearing my barbarian furs today because it is right now a minus 18 Celsius outside with the wind chill of minus 29, which for you non-metric folk, that's minus 30 Fahrenheit.
Wow.
So it's heavy cold outside, and when the early morning, when to save on gas, we have the furnace shut off for a while, the house gets very cold. And so I've got my very hot tea, not scalding, thank goodness, and I am ready to, and it's too early in the morning because I decided to stay up and watch your first part of your show. Bad idea on my part because now I'm tired and grumpy. And why am I grumpy? Because I had to watch Conan the Barbarian.
Hey, this is baby making weather, though.
Oh, yeah. No, it's not. Trust me. The only thing that you want to be wrapped up in is a blanket.
I would figure this is when all the babies are being made, is this time of year.
Oh, no. You can't stir your drink when it's frozen. It doesn't work that way.
That is quite an interesting visual.
I know, right? No more penguins. No more extra.
Oh, no, God, no more of those here. 3 is more than sufficient. Thank you very much.
Well, you need 2 more for a basketball starting 5. So. Conan the Barbarian. Wow, Arnold Schwarzenegger at his absolute best, right?
Yes, the story of a muscle-bound misogynist. And Conan. Yes. The movie where, who needs names for half your characters when you don't have much dialogue anyway? Because I don't know about you, but I think there's only 2 names I remembered out of that whole thing. And even then, that's a stretch. There's Conan and there's Thule. And I think that's all the names that they have in for the characters. In fact, if you look at the IMDb, the narrator / wizard is listed as wizard / narrator. So I guess they didn't bother with names back in the ancient past of Conan. Okay, so let's do what we always do. Let's go over the plot first to give you an idea for those who haven't seen Conan. Conan is the story of a muscle-bound, misogynistic guy.
Sumerian.
Sumerian, yes. Sorry, I forgot. That's important, even though they say he's the last of his kind, so I guess that's important. Who, as a young child, witnesses the death of his entire family to the evil. Is it Yvonne Sour? See, I can't even remember his name. That's how bad it is. It's
we'll just call him Evil James Earl
Thulsa
Jones.
Doom. Thulsa Doom. Yeah, Darth Vader. Anyway, as you see, I switched to a much more awake and happier picture there. That's because I had to go double check that. So you'll see me doing that from time to time. And no, it's not magic. It's magic of me switching to another tab. So, Thulsa Doom, who at first is an evil warrior, but becomes a snake cult leader. Not that that really matters. So Conan, grows up, becomes a slave, who becomes free, who becomes a king. Well, that sounds very familiar.
Mm-hmm.
But
didn't Russell Crowe do that in Gladiator?
Much better.
Yeah, okay.
I might add, much better.
Just checking.
And he had more dialogue too. For obvious.
Wait a minute, you didn't think 2001 with the opening?
No. Maybe. I mean, when Arnold came on, I thought 2001 because there was a lot of quiet ape-like action that was happening.
Hey, Oliver Stone co-wrote the screenplay with the great John Milius.
Wait, it took two people to write all that dialogue? Really?
Well, one person had to hold the other person's drink, so it was important.
There's only one decent line of dialogue, and even then. But
you're a witch.
No, come on. What is best in life, Conan? Crush your enemies, drive them before you, and hear the lamentation of the women. That was his longest bit of dialogue in the entire film, and even then, he had a hard time with it. Yeah. So, where were we? Oh, yes, the snake cult. Conan grows up, becomes free, decides to become a thief for a while, meets up with some other people for no reason but plot. Steals jewel, turns out is from the same cult leader who wiped out his family and his village. He goes to seek revenge, stab, hack, the end. There was your movie.
You forgot the sex. You forgot the sex. That's important because I feel like that was part of the reason anybody watched it.
Well, maybe. Yeah, see, Conan belongs to that weird fantasy genre of big beefy men going around grabbing as many women as they can while hacking up as many other beefy men as they can, and very little plot, but your comic book had lots of boobies in it, and that's what drew most of the readership, and I guess that would follow your viewership to your movie. And that formula was repeated over and over and over again in the 80s ad nauseum, and to be honest, I cannot stand that genre. I guess it's somebody's male fantasy to be a big beefy guy that rapes his way through the villages and kills everything that he doesn't like, but it doesn't really work for me anymore. I just,
anymore.
That was never really my thing. I never thought that's what I wanted to be. I wasn't one of those guys who watched or read Conan and said, that's where I wish everything was like. It was this barbaric age of hacking and slashing, having a brain in your head.
If only we could all be Sumerians.
Yeah, then we could all be dead, right? Except for Conan. It's the one thing I can say I like about this movie is the soundtrack, and that's it.
It is really good, yeah.
It's a good soundtrack to an awful film. I'm sorry, anyone who's a Conan film, I'm sorry if I'm going to do this, but I hate this movie. I really do. I remember the first time I watched it, and even as a young lad getting a VHS tape for the first time, watching some boobies on tape, it didn't do anything for me. I hated it. I really did. I was bored. I was just so bored.
Okay, what's not to love about it? You have a man who early on, he sees his mother being beheaded.
Yes.
So, right there, that got your attention, right?
Yeah, I guess that's supposed to get your sympathy right off the bat. Oh, poor Conan lost his mom. And then And then through the magic of slavery, where he's brought to this big giant wheel that he has to push around as a child. And just to give you an idea, this wheel makes him into the big muscle-bound Conan, which doesn't make sense, because I'm thinking if you're endlessly pushing this wheel around, two things are going to happen to you. Your body's going to deteriorate, and you're going to go mad. Part of that happened, I guess. I mean, the guy came out of there big psychopathic killer, but I'm sorry.
Can I say this though? Kind of low key, don't you want that wheel so you can get big and buff like Conan?
You can't get big. No, you can't get big and buff. Pushing with that is what you call back-breaking work. And the worst part of that job is, and this is why you'd go insane, because if you notice, Conan was the last one taken off that wheel. That wheel did nothing. That wasn't like it was part of some mining thing. They didn't keep putting new kids onto the thing. It's like one guy sat there, and worse for that guy, there's a guy whose job was to stand on top of that wheel and watch these idiots pushing the wheel around and around and around, day after day, week after week, as you saw through different types of weather. Yeah, I would have killed them all just so I'd say, hey, they all died. I can't do this job anymore. There's nobody left to push the wheel.
See, both you and Jen are parents. You guys could have sold your kids on pushing the wheel to keep the heat going in the house.
Well, that's the thing. If the wheel had any purpose, I would go, oh, that's great. That wheel had no purpose. Like, the movie didn't even give it a purpose. It wasn't like, oh, you're drilling into the ground, or you're digging up water, or so. It's some sort of useful purpose. It's a giant wheel in the middle of the desert, and it's hooked up to nothing, and it's got a big tower, and it's like put a lot of effort. They dragged these logs into this wasteland and everything, built this big structure for a bunch of guys to push it in circles for no reason.
So fan theory here.
Go ahead.
Maybe what happened was, like you said, Conan actually died at the wheel. And what we see is actually his afterlife.
Well, if your afterlife is what you make of it, then yeah, this afterlife would suit him, because it's a big, stupid, pointless afterlife.
Well, there you go.
But I don't think so. I think this is a world where stupid things happen for stupid reasons. Conan meets all of the people he needs to meet, and he likes the ones he needs to like, and don't like the ones he don't need to like for no reason. He comes across his buddy, the arrow guy. Now, what's his name? Please, I cannot remember. What's the character's name? His buddy with the porn stash and the bad Sonny Bono haircut. Yeah. See, this is how memorable these characters are. I have to describe.
You're talking about the other thief, right?
Yeah. Okay. Let's call him the other thief.
Yeah, the other thief.
What's his name?
There we go.
What's his name? He's never introduced in the film.
They introduced him in the second film, right? I'm serious. They actually introduce him in the second film. They give him a backstory in the second film.
And they gave him a name in the second film too, because I don't think he introduced himself. He's like, feed me. Why would they want to feed you? I don't know, because I'm stuck here. Oh, you're my friend now. and to show friendship in this film, Arnold has to laugh, and that means they're friends. Or he will scowl at you. That means you're enemies. That was it. That was the emotional range of that film.
I'm about to find out.
Yeah, you find that. You go look. And then there's Girl Thief. I can't remember her name either. I'll call her Plainface.
Plainface.
Yes.
You want to know how you know that this movie was actually not written really well?
Because Dino De Laurentiis' name is on the opening titles.
Well, okay, yes.
His name was Subota, something like that.
Subota?
Sobotai.
Okay.
Okay.
Maybe he did say that sometime in the film. Maybe he did. Arnold never referred to him as that. And I guess, hey, when you get close to people and your friends, you don't sit there and say each other's names every time you talk to them. Like, I don't go, hey, Kinte, how you? I'll say, hey, Kinte, how you doing? But I won't, start every sentence with, Kinte, what do you think about this? Kinte, what do you think about that? Hey, Kinte, you do this? Hey, Kinte, I went to the bathroom the other day. Kinte, what, so I guess
if
familiarity.
you're 5, you do.
Yeah, but in movie terms, you got to do that a couple of times just so that we get to know the guy's name and go, oh, yeah, that's Sabuku or whatever his name is. They don't do that.
We'll call him Sudoku.
Sudoku.
Okay, wait. Wait. I have to tell you why you know this was not well written material, because they tried to resurrect it and they used Jason Momoa as Conan. That this was a couple of years ago, right?
Oh, and I thought you were talking about Aquaman.
No.
Because I remember that wheel pushing scene in Aquaman.
I like Aquaman, but okay, but let's get away from that. No, they remade Conan, right? And they put Jason Momoa in that title role, and even he couldn't save it.
Well, no, there's nothing of value to Conan. Conan has zero personality except for he kills and takes women.
Which is weird because, source material wise, I can't say the book is great or books are great. But
and the comics that were the things that this was really based on, because that was what was popular. This was one of the first Marvel movies, by the way, if you think about it, because Marvel had, it's supposed to be based on the book, but it was based more on the comics, which were based on the book.
But it was better. I mean, at least there was a little bit of depth. There's no depth. None.
Yeah.
None. Yeah. Well,
because Conan had more lines.
So it's all in.
Conan actually spoke. Remember the whole thing? They go, Conan learned to read and write and do literature. I was like, not this guy.
Yeah.
Not that guy. That guy ain't going to be talking to me about the art of war or even any kind of philosophy. He's just going, me stab, and that would be it. Then he would take my maid and run off with her.
It says they considered Charles Bronson, Sylvester Stallone, and William Smith.
Charles Bronson is Conan?
Yeah.
Wow.
And William Smith, the guy who played Conan.
You're going to get yours.
The guy who played Conan's father, they considered him as well, William Smith.
Mm-hmm. Will Smith is Conan?
Yeah.
He'd be likable for a change.
Hilarious.
I think he would have been like 3 at the time.
Yeah, Jaden Smith.
Recast. Jaden Smith is Conan.
Well,
my Jaden Smith face.
But there are So I don't want to jump ahead too far here, but there are some.
Can you? There's
not without getting to the end of the movie real fast.
Conan kills the bad guy. The end. That's all that movie is. But go ahead.
There are some very memorable scenes in this movie. Memorable in the sense that so I was a kid when I watched this, and there are certain indelible sort of scenes in my head about it.
Okay, which ones?
Well, one of them was when God, it's so goofy. I mean, it's like ridiculous when I see it now. But when they break into the harem,
yes,
it was such a ridiculous, over the top scene. But it was very memorable. When you say to somebody, the harem scene, everybody knows it.
Yeah, boobies.
Yeah, right. And also the ridiculous snakes. The snake. I mean, I feel like they may have been, just really cool characters.
You see two snakes looking at each other.
Yeah, they must be evil.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh yeah, and then there's this is one of my favorite scenes. Here we go.
Oh, in his slave dialogue, by the way. This is written.
Is this? Would you consider that a kind of homoerotic there?
I don't know. I guess somebody might get off on that. I don't know who.
It's weird. It almost. God, it's so strange to even say this. In retrospect, it feels really weird to watch this as a thinking adult and not as a kid, because as a kid, I think you overgeneralize stuff.
Watching it as a kid,
it didn't.
What was the rating on that? If I remember correctly, it wasn't PG.
No, it wasn't. This was one of those VHS things.
So this movie was not made for kids.
Well, okay, as a kid, I'm not talking about like I was 5. I'm talking about I was not an adult when I saw this on VHS. And to even today, the scene again, go back to the witch. The scene with the witch, some of that stuff was, to me, it was creepy, and I don't mean creepy like, oh, this could be a really good horror segue. No, I mean, it was creepy. Like, even I felt like, whoa, what the heck just happened?
Yeah, you mean skeevy.
Yeah, really skeevy. Thank you. That was exactly the word that I needed.
Yeah, I would have said creepy, but changed the E's to A. And that's how I felt about the film. But the witch scene, it was from that time in film where, skin was king. This was the 80s. You showed as much skin as you, and coming off the 70s, which is a very bizarre, creepy time. The baby boomers, when they took over Hollywood, made very creepy films on top of their regular ones. Like, they had some groundbreaking stuff, and they had some really skeevy, creepy stuff going on too. Like, even stuff nowadays where I go, yeah, I wouldn't put that in a film. I'm thinking stuff they did with Brooke Shields back in the 70s. I'm going, that's a kid, and they're showing way too much, and they're sexualizing this kid. And it's like really gross and creepy. And that was like considered normal back then. And I put that down to way too much lead on the planet, in the atmosphere, for people being like going a little nuts.
I thought you was going to say too much lead in your pencils.
No, just
that was the number. That was.
I don't care how much lead you have in your pencil. You don't get skeevy because of that. It's lead in the brain that does that. There's a correlation. Somebody had, now correlation doesn't equal causation. Now, folks, just this is science for you. But there's a graph that shows the amount of lead in the environment. Mm-hmm. Like lead paints and lead in toys and lead in lead in the gasoline and everything. The cutting of that coincides with the decrease in violent crime and sexual attacks and everything like that. I'm not saying that's what happened, but there's a strong hint that we were like, as a society for a short while there, well, maybe like 100 years, we're basically going insane. Because of what we were putting into the environment. And when we stopped doing that, because certain scientists went, hey, lead's a toxin and it seems to be everywhere. And we should stop that. And we did. And that was begun in the late 60s, early 70s. And if you watch between that time and now, people's attitudes have definitely changed quite a lot. And I don't think it's not just like the whole, racism's wrong, misogyny's wrong. It's like people were extra misogynistic and creepy in the 70s and 60s. I agree. There's an actual really whole creep factor going on that underlies even some of the movies I love from the 70s. There's some real creep stuff going on. And I think of Taxi Driver, one of my favorite films. And what's one of the subplots is about a young girl, and there's that scene where young Jodie Foster, and she was young then, and Harvey Keitel are having that one scene where they're dancing together and he's being romantic, and we're going, okay, yeah, this is kind of like the street thing, and this is how poor young girls are getting dragged into it. It's like, but we're watching this, and it's shot in such a way that you're kind of going, can we get past this scene now? I got the point, and there's a lot of that. And Conan is just a film full of that. Yeah.
There's a lot of cringy stuff in Conan for sure, but there's also the other thing about Conan, which is sort of like it makes me scratch my head, is that so many people or so many films tried to copy this.
Oh yeah, that's the thing.
It just makes me go, what? Why?
You got your Beastmasters, your Deathstalker series, and Deathstalker said, hey, that creepy stuff with Conan? Let's amp that up because there's not enough of it in the film. I mean, in Deathstalker, it starts with our hero coming in and saving a woman from being gang raped so that he can rape her. And that was our hero.
Oh my God.
And follow him through the rest of the film. And I'm like going, what the hell is this? And it was, and your, harem scene? Forget it. They got an orgy scene with the guy with the pig head and everything in it. So you want to take that cheap, amped up crap? It was there in large numbers.
How did I miss that?
But
wow. This is a very strange word to use for that. You'd be thankful you missed it. It is an awful film. There's 3 of them.
To be fair, though, the TV show Oz kind of started off like that as well.
Well, yes and no, but none of the people you're talking about Oz, none of the people in Oz were supposed to be your hero. There were people that you were supposed to follow, and you're supposed to, but you knew these were all bad people. They were horrible people. This is a hero. Like, you're supposed to look up to this guy and go, "Oh yes, he's going to go save the day and do all the wonderful things that heroes do." And let's start it off with him raping a woman against a tree. Hooray. And he's only stopped midway through by his version of Sabutu or whatever his name is, coming along going, "Hey, I'm your buddy," who he later kills because it turns out the guy wasn't his buddy. I'm not ruining anything. Deathstalker is an awful, terrible, terrible film. Don't watch it. Don't watch it.
Wow.
I don't care. I don't care how much weird, rude, sexual stuff you want to watch, deviant stuff. If you're into skin and everything, it's just not worth watching. It is not worth watching. It is awful.
Well,
awful.
Okay. So by contrast,
Conan.
But by contrast, Conan seems a bit tame in that regard.
Well, no, Conan does his bit of raping too. Don't forget. He's sitting there in his cage, and they throw this poor woman at him, and he's like, "Oh," and he's pretending to act gentle, but he ain't, and she doesn't look like she's really wanting to be there while these guys are watching through the cage, and he's doing his "Let's get ready to go. You're my reward for killing people."
God, I totally forgot about that scene.
Yeah.
Wow, I think I mentally might have blocked that out.
Yeah. That is the total creep on that is Conan the Barbarian. And it did well enough that they created a sequel, Conan the Destroyer, which, thank God, destroyed the franchise. Because everyone went, "Wait a minute, this is a crappy film." It's like, no, it's a copy of the other film.
And that was actually much tamer it was. And you're right. It was, but arguably it was worse. But I can be B-movie entertained by Conan the Destroyer and not Conan the Barbarian.
Yeah, Conan the Barbarian. I mean,
there's like a Conan Thunderdome or something like that. Beyond Thunderdome.
No, that was Mad Max.
Oh, okay, I got it mixed up.
Oh yeah, Conan Beyond Thunderdome, but it wasn't Tina Turner they had in it. It was Aretha Franklin. Yeah.
Okay.
Aretha Franklin and Arnold Schwarzenegger in Conan Beyond Thunderdome.
I think I'd pay to see that. I think I would.
I would too. Yeah. Actually, that would be a good Conan film. Oh my God. Please don't remind me. And you know what? Tina Turner was good in that film. I liked her in that. Yeah, but I like Tina Turner, period. So there you go.
Paul Mooney says that Tina Turner now looks like Mel Gibson's grandchild.
Oh,
you know what? Come on. Fair play to that. When she was, put it this way. When she burst onto the scene in the 60s, she was already what? She was in her 30s and already had 2 kids.
Right.
And she had, she was like stellar looking. I'm telling you, that woman, oh my God. No, and in the 80s, when she did when she was, had her big resurgence.
The joke is that Mel Gibson says that he looks old as hell. So, so like how things have flip-flopped is basically, she looks like his grandchild.
I'm still not awake, so I missed what was actually being said.
Oh, yeah.
But there you go. But yeah, Tina. Yeah. Oh, I'm thinking in the 80s. How old would she have been in the 80s? And she's had those like killer legs, and she was still strutting her stuff. Mm-hmm. And she's older. And put it this way, so you do the connection here. Mick Jagger helped bring her out into the public's consciousness because he had her touring with the Stones for a while because he loved her stuff. And and he was like 10 years younger than her basically. And look at him now and compare him to her now.
Mm-hmm.
He's like a living Apple doll.
Yeah, not too good.
Creepy.
Not too good. Yeah, Jen turned into a baby.
Yeah, that's right. She did. I did the
How come
I
you
did the
don't do
10-year
the,
challenge, and
how come you don't do
actually,
the face? How come you don't do the on the face thing?
what do you mean?
Well, you don't have video like the rest of us.
Because it's so bad. It's so bad. It lags really bad. So, and I think
So it'd be
it's
like
just,
watching pictures.
It's sort of. Yeah, I mean, you can watch me pixelate across the screen, but it's really not.
Well, that would be entertaining. I had to watch Conan, and that was less entertaining than that.
You
would
mean
have been.
you have two sons, right?
Me?
No, King.
Two sons and a daughter.
You haven't got the two boys together and sat them on the couch and had them watch Conan with you?
Oh God, I wouldn't do that to them. I made them watch The Warriors, and they weren't happy. They didn't like that as so much. My oldest has got sort of he likes some cheese, but yeah, there's some things they go, yeah, Dad, how can you watch that? That is just old and outdated. Because they'll watch Casablanca with me. They'll watch Citizen Kane and stuff like that, and they have no problem with that. Like they don't. My kids aren't. Oh, it's black and white. I don't want to watch it. But when it comes to bad movies, they don't have the stomach to sit through them. If it's a bad movie, they're like, "Why are we wasting our time watching this, Dad? Because it's fun. This is not fun, Dad."
Tell them you're gonna either watch the movie or you're gonna push the wheel.
You want to be big and strong like Conan? You push that wheel, son.
My one son really does love Conan in every iteration.
Oh dear.
He definitely thinks that Conan is like this is the coolest thing.
I'll tell you, I have one of the old Marvel magazines. They had the full page, the black and white. They didn't have any. The only thing color was the cover from the 70s. That I have kept over the years, and the only reason I remember keeping that was because the female character, who wasn't the same as this female character, was basically naked through the entire book. And so I'm like, and that was a plot point. She was captured by these evil guys who decided to, enslave her. That's the high standard of writing of Conan. It's sort of like, what's the name of that? Gray, Shades of Grey, or whatever the frick that awful books are. It's like that.
50 Shades of Grey?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
50 Shades of Grey. But,
okay, so I have an Arnold story to tell you.
Okay.
I think I've said this before. Well, I think I've said it on other podcasts before, but I've met Arnold a couple of times. He used to come to stay at the Four Seasons, and I got nothing but awesome stuff to say about him. He was so nice to everybody. I mean, everybody, even the kids that would like just follow after him. It was like he was a Pied Piper or something.
Well, yeah,
it was really endearing.
No, see,
and he was so nice to them.
That's his public persona, because you've seen what he was. If you see Pumping Iron and everything, and all the stuff they showed behind scenes when he was just a bodybuilder, his attitudes and the way he carried himself was a lot different than his new public persona. Because he became very well liked and became a star and everything. I think there's the Arnold you see, and then there's the Arnold who is. It's like everybody. We all have our persona.
Well,
I'm not bubbly and exciting in person. I'm very boring and quiet most of the time.
Well, and also, to be fair, he was already married and had kids at that time.
Yeah, so, and other kids too.
And that does change you. I mean, there's that. I'm just saying that. Look, for all the times that
you met him, he was very nice. He wasn't
so nice.
Yes. And that's cool. I mean, and you know what? I mean, for everybody's flaws, they're going to have some good qualities too. Hitler loved dogs, so there you go. And the only reason I bring him up is because Arnold's father was working as a police officer for those German.
I'll say this though, the only thing that, well, not the only thing, but the big thing that actually bothers me about the whole idea of Conan is that somehow
it became a film.
Hollywood thought that this kind of movie, I'm not just talking about them having a sequel, but somehow these kinds of movies, like we were talking about before, kept getting made, and it seemed, like you said, that they kept getting made in progressively worse and worse ways, like more degradation, more hyper masculinity. And I don't just,
Well,
I mean, like, there's no, you can't make a barbarian that maybe doesn't feel like there's some hyper masculinity going on, but the misogyny and the just
that's
over the
no, but
top.
that's part of this whole barbarian thing. It's exactly
That's what I mean. It was a cookie cutter, right?
Yeah,
it was a mold that they used.
But I'll ask you
You
this.
are Conan the Librarian?
Yeah.
Yes, actually, I
I'll
would
ask
like
this.
Conan the Librarian.
I'll ask this. How has Hollywood changed then? Something made money. Let's just keep copying it with worse and worse and worse until it's dead. I will squeeze every cent out of this genre until it is dead. Like superhero.
Yeah, point.
You know, that kind of thing. I mean, say what you want. Oh, Marvel Universe, blah, blah, blah. Yes, they have a couple of good films here and there. I'm not a big fan of a lot of them. There's a lot of films I won't go back to. Thor Ragnarok, I will. Infinity War, I like. But all the rest of them, I'll never watch them again. They were interesting at the time, and it's like, but we keep doing it over and over and over again. So it seems like, you know, every movie that's coming out is a superhero film, and I'm like, going, enough.
Well, we killed the vampires, so
Yes.
we had to move on to something.
Yes, and zombies. We killed those too. I remember when zombies were just a small niche thing that I enjoyed, and then Hollywood got their dirty, grubby hands all over it and just drove it into the ground.
Well, every once in a while they'll try to remake, like I said, you know, they tried to remake Conan with Jason Momoa, and it was that, you know,
Try to remake everything. Don't worry. Boy in the Plastic Bubble will be a movie soon.
I ask Kinte, right? I am usually really super generous with all of my critiques on just about everything. I will find a silver lining, a rainbow inside of content, even if it really hurts to do it. I'll find it.
Right.
I almost walked out of the Jason Momoa Conan, and I love Jason Momoa. I mean, he's a Hawaii boy, right? I almost walked out twice. Twice it took me. I mean, I really wanted to leave, but I had somebody else with me, and I felt kind of embarrassed for that. So that's the only reason I didn't go.
Somebody who wanted to be there.
Well, they were under the age of 18, so maybe that's why. But it was so awful. And I don't think that it was necessarily it wasn't that people didn't try. It wasn't that there wasn't an effort to make Conan, you know, an awesome sort of film. It was the source material just doesn't lend itself to the screen, not in the way that they interpret who Conan is. It just doesn't, and you can see it so clearly in this movie for sure.
Well, I mean, there's nothing to Conan. There's no real. I mean, if you want to have a story arc for the character, he gets his revenge. But really, I mean, they say, okay, let's take all of the key points of the Conan lore and we got to put them in this film. So you're going to have the crucifixion on the tree trunk, which is a very famous picture you can see out there, you know, from the films where, you know, there's Conan standing there on this, you know, cross, not a cross in the sense we know it now, but like an actual X there, and his, you know, hands up in the middle of the desert. And there's like a couple of scenes here and there where they reference to Conan lore, and believe it or not, there's a Conan lore out there. I'm sure there are fans of that, but I don't get it. I really don't. But
it was his resurrection scene, right?
They were fighting off like cartoon things while they had all that crap on his face.
Hey,
yeah.
That was first class animation.
That was memorable. And for some reason they couldn't do it to his girlfriend. Well, is it because she had a snake in her back? I don't know.
It's because she was a woman.
Yeah, I mean that honestly is sort of apparently they had used up their magic for the film time period. Yes. You know, I mean there was like a limited supply. It came with that caveat.
Yeah, and I'm trying to understand. See, everything happens because of plot in this film. It's not based out of characters. Like all these people who gravitate towards Conan, there is not a single bit of charisma to that character that would lend itself to people going, hey, I want to hang around this guy. He says nothing. He's broody. And he's like, whoa. And he walks around with a sword and a chip on his shoulder. And why would you want to hang around this guy? Protection, maybe. I don't know. Like, there's no chemistry between him and the other characters. There's not, like, it's strange that he got a career. I swear, it wasn't this movie that made him, even though it made money. It was definitely Terminator. And this movie and Terminator had the one thing they knew that worked with Arnold Schwarzenegger, especially at that time, was give him as little dialogue as possible.
Yeah.
And then let him just kind of menace his way through the film, and that's good enough. And
much like Keanu Reeves.
Oh, yeah, they give him too much dialogue. There's only two movies I like him in, and he's playing the same character. One is Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, and the other is Parenthood.
Really?
Steve Martin.
I love John Wick. What the heck?
It was fun, but really?
Dude, I love John Wick, especially the second John Wick.
I can't believe there's going to be 3 of the same movie, though. I mean, it's like, okay.
I can.
John Wick's
It's awesome.
fun.
It's if you want to watch different ways to murder people.
It's
I think they were did Trump put lead back into the atmosphere again?
well, probably.
Maybe that's why these films are doing as well as they are. I mean, look, I liked it for what it was. It was a fun movie, the first one, because it was kind of tongue in cheek. Oh, he's going to get these guys for killing his dog. Okay, all right, not bad. But after a while, it was like getting kind of wearing. It's like, okay, how many different ways can you kill a guy? Okay, all right.
No, I gotta disagree. I really like John Wick. I just like it for the adventure that it is. It's. I mean, yes, it's contrived, but okay. But let's go back to Conan for a second and compare.
It's a dumb movie too. There's nothing clever about it.
No, but I don't think it ever. At least it stands on its own. The
not
issue
anymore.
that I have
films of it, so it's not really standing on its own, is it?
The idea stands on its own. I mean, Alien had how many movies, right?
Yeah,
some of them were good, some of them were bad.
Yeah, should have had one.
Go back to the whole when an adaptation is done, if the source material is bad and I shouldn't say bad because I feel actually it's sort of like that's too strong a word. When the source material doesn't lend itself to adaptation, there's nothing that can really save it.
Right.
You cannot turn crap into something awesome. It's just and I'm not saying that like the comics weren't good for what they were. They just were never meant to be. They weren't meant to be adapted to film. It just, it doesn't, I can't quite understand how that leap got made, but I mean, there were a lot of movies around that time that seemed ridiculously that way. So,
yeah. Well, someone got, like, I'm not even sure, I should have done a bit more research in this case, but I'm not even sure why they chose this particular, like, there was nothing at the time saying, hey, this is what people want to see. And I don't know what it was that they wanted to make this property into a film. Because I'm thinking about it and thinking about it. It's like there's nothing at that time that said, hey, we want to have, a fantasy film with a big muscular dope.
Well, it was kind of Dungeons and Dragony. I mean, it was like
even then that was
all the wizarding classes.
You can understand
not wizarding classes. All of the different warrior classes were in there.
Yeah, but Dungeons and Dragons, as far as that was even though people knew about it, it wasn't a big thing. Like wasn't everyone was going, hey, I got to go play Dungeons and Dragons today, and everything. I mean, it's more of a nerd.
No, that's something you hide or you get beat up about.
Yeah, exactly. Nerd culture back then was real as opposed to this thing that's going on now, and it was very much kept to yourself and your circle of friends. And if you said anything outside, you'd get beaten up. So Hollywood's not going to go, hey, yeah, that's what we got to grab onto because that's what the zeitgeist is. People hiding in their closets playing weird games.
Right. That's not what I meant, though. Right. I didn't mean that it was like an extension of something that was pop culture. I'm saying that they took something that was in a culture and said, oh, hey, I know, let's take this source material and add this element to it, and here's what we can come up with. But it didn't, the whole sword and sandals, it doesn't.
See, I was thinking about it because I was going to try to say sword and sandals too, and I realized it's not a sword and sandals.
Yeah, I think you're right.
It's definitely a more actual historical Roman kind of thing, and it's got its own little tropes and everything. And this doesn't quite fit in there. And this is where
it doesn't.
This weird, strange. Oh, other kind of fantasy. It's like this other version of fantasy, and I don't know what you would call it, except for sort of the Conan kind of fantasy.
It doesn't because the introduction of a universe where the rules don't really make sense, and apparently they don't have to make sense, that throws everything off.
Yep, there's magic, and then there's all kinds of other stuff. Yeah, James Earl Jones and his magic eyes that make women.
But even the magic doesn't make sense. Like, I mean, it's like somebody didn't even think continuity wise to go through the film and pick the things out that didn't quite line up.
Well, they had to fill the time.
Oof, man, it's painful.
Let's not take the scene out, or the film won't make its run
long enough. There was so much time spent.
He made a snake into an arrow, and he shot into her. Yeah, it'll be memorable. Really?
There was so much time spent with the daughter dying, or being martyred, whatever you want to say. I remember even at the time that was super cringy. Yeah. That it felt so long and protracted for no good reason.
Well, think about
none. I can't think of a good reason for it at all.
This film really doesn't follow a plot. Like, these are just like a bunch of incidents that happen in Conan's life that were strung together. Conan steals a gem. Conan finds a girl. Conan has sex with a witch who turns into something else. Conan shows up in the end with a beard on a throne. I guess we're wait for the sequel. Find out how he does that. You know?
See, so maybe it really was.
Conan
he really did die on the wheel, and this is just his life flashing forward in front of his eyes instead of backwards in front of it. Like, instead of seeing his life in reverse, he sees his life going forward, and it's just sort of snips of the stuff that could have made him great, quote unquote.
By Crom, it wasn't good at all. Crom, if you're listening to me, good. If you're not, to hell with you. Well, he's already in hell. He's underground. Conan, they kind of put that at the beginning. Your father told you that over that blue screen shot of the sky. Remember that at the beginning?
Hilarious.
What a great way to start a film, too, eh? Two characters standing in front of a bad blue screen. When you have these nice epic shots, and then you cut to a blue screen with literally blue behind the characters' heads, and you can almost see through it. It's like, oh, this is where the film's going. Great. Can't wait to see more.
But it did pretty well at the box office.
Oh no, it did great at the box. No, it did great at the box office. That's why they made a second one. That's what launched Schwarzenegger's career. Don't forget, they tried to use him before in Hercules Goes Bananas or Hercules in New York, whatever you want to call it, where Arnold was labeled as Arnold Strong because his co-star, who was given top billing, was Arnold Stang.
Oh.
And if you saw Arnold Stang, he's this snevishy little thin guy with thick glasses who talked like this. And it was like,
oh my God.
Hercules, we're going to go get the guys. And Arnold was dubbed. So I am Hercules. So you're watching Arnold Schwarzenegger bigger than he was in Conan, because this was during his bodybuilding heyday and full steroids in effect. And, he's mouthing words and he's getting lots of dialogue, but somebody else is saying it for him.
Oh, that's awful. Wow.
Yeah, we actually should put that in one of our films. We should be watching that. That's right, kids. If you want to see Arnold taking on the world as a mythical character, Hercules Goes Bananas.
Oh, that's terrible. That is so terrible. Wow. Now I feel like almost honor bound to go and watch it.
You haven't seen it? Oh, wow.
No, I have not. Oh, wow. I have not seen that.
And you'll recognize the voice of Arnold Stang because he's done cartoons and everything. He's got this really recognizable, weird, cartoony kind of voice. And you look at the guy; he's got no chin, and he's like, "Hercules, what are you gonna do?" It's like, and it's his movie too. He's the lead guy. It's about him trying to find love and everything. And mythical Hercules is there to help him along.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of feel like Conan the Barbarian was actually a plant from the future where Mystery Science Theater said, look, you know what? We really need something pretty bad. So could you put this together for us? Because
no, there are a lot worse films that are more entertaining. This film has very few entertaining scenes. There's a couple, but most of it you're kind of cringing through the whole thing going, really?
But it's super easy to mock.
Oh, yeah, but at the same time, you have to sit through it. There are some films that are easy to mock that you can sit through, and then there's this one.
Oh, yeah, it's pretty terrible.
It's just not entertaining in any way, shape, or form. The violence is not really well choreographed. The plot kind of just jumps in and out from different places. Like there's whole chunks of the movie that seem to be missing because they do stuff and it's like, wait a minute, when did you guys ever get together and why? Or why are you doing this now? What was the whole reason? Okay, you're just doing stuff. Okay, and why are they wearing camouflage in a brightly lit room? And why is nobody seeing them? Was there something? Is the camouflage magic? Did they? I mean, if they said that, if they even just said that, where Mako goes, "You may look like stupid tigers, but it's magic, and they will not see you as long as you wear this." Then I'll be going, okay, that's why in a brightly lit room they've got these little black stripes across their face and body, and no one can see them, as opposed to a bunch of people with weird paint on themselves walking around with swords getting ready to pounce. Okay, thank you, film, for that.
But you got to give the James Earl Jones character credit though, when he made that woman just dive to her death.
Yeah, we're using his eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what? I love James Earl Jones, but even in this film, he's like, really? The terrible wig they have him in. And just he looks so uncomfortable, and he's obvious, he's not the most fit guys. Even then, he wasn't a fit guy, and they got him all in that armor, and he looks like, okay, let's fight. It's like, you're not. I mean, you notice he didn't actually fight in this movie. He did one bit of fighting, and even then, it was sort of like he just went, oh, and that was it. And the woman's head came off, and then after that, they did nothing else. He stood there and became a snake, and then I use my mind power with the Force. But he didn't do anything because it's James Earl Jones, and he was a little out of shape, and he wouldn't have struck an imposing figure. Where you got a muscle-bound guy who could barely get his arms together trying to do a sword fight with a large, portly man who probably also had the same problem for different reasons. So it would have been an epic fight between the two of them.
I'm reading here that this movie was basically born out of the success of Star Wars.
Okay, see, this is where I'm going to go. How? What? How? My hair.
Yeah, that correlation is really tough.
Well, because it's a fantasy,
right?
We need a fantasy product. Okay, how about Flash Gordon? No, wait. How about these books about a big, stupid, oversized, muscular man who stabs people to death and rapes women? Okay, that sounds like gold. Let's do it. Thank you, Dino.
Conan the Barbarian.
Who's it was Howard Lee, right? Lee Howard? Lee Howard.
Right. Robert. Yeah.
Robert. Okay, there we go. Oof, man, that was stretching back. Because I for some reason I remember reading other stuff by the same, and it was just similarly not
good. It's Paul.
I don't know if it was not good. It was not my cup of tea. It was not what I wanted to read. It was it was just so over the top.
Well, and here's the thing too. Conan itself, the original stuff, it was not original in its own way. It was borrowed from a lot of the kind of He-Man things. There were other guys, it's sort of a dumb version of Carter on Mars, or believe it or not, a dumb version of Tarzan. You've got the person out of this hero who basically beat the shit out of things, and that's all and got the women, and that's all he did. And that was sort of a man's life kind of thing. I don't know if you've ever seen those pulp magazines from the 30s, 40s, and 50s, Man's Life and Man's World, where they got covers of women being tortured by Nazis and manly men coming in to save them. It's that kind of weird kind of genre that this came from. So yeah, it's weird. I don't understand it. I mean, I'm kind of going, this is what some people consider this sort of this fantasy world they wish they could live in and be that guy. And I'm like going, maybe we are kind of further detached from the early 20th century than we think. Because I don't get that fantasy. I mean, I don't. Maybe it's me. Maybe I'm the weird one.
Well,
maybe every guy wants to be Conan.
There's so many tropes that are wrapped up in this, right? I mean, there's a revenge trope for sure. There's also that take no prisoners kind of a attitude,
and save my princess daughter from the evil foreigners.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's another one.
Yeah.
And then there's the whole king making, which is sort of almost a separate entity of this.
But there's not much of that in here. There's all talk about it, but nothing that even says that it's going to happen.
Exactly, which leads me to the sort of the next point in what was the point of Conan, in that
to make money.
There was no.
And hear the lamentation of the audience.
If they were trying to do an adaptation in any way, shape, or form, they missed the entire point of who Conan the Barbarian was.
Yeah. In the book sense, where he's supposed to eventually become king and all that stuff. Yeah, they sort of do. I don't know. It's such a weird mishmash, and it also blurs with all the other kind of films like it that happen around the time. That there's this whole blur of it's all the same, where it's just like you've got a quest, you stab and slaughter your way through it, and you get the girl.
Well,
and other girls in between, and that was all there is to it. And every so often you have
that's the reason that I thought that doing the comparison between this movie and Beastmaster was an interesting idea, because not that Beastmaster was any better of a movie.
Oh my God,
because
no.
It was just handled so differently. It was just handled just as bad. I mean, when I say just as bad, I mean
watch it. It
was not a good movie, but fundamentally they handled it really bad. You know, when I said that we were going to watch,
they toned it. Beastmaster's toned down because they wanted to get a more general audience, so they toned down the more sexual, overtly sexual stuff on it. But generally, it's a carbon copy.
I said that we were. That this is what we were going to do, and that I was going to watch Beastmaster, one of my kids got super excited, and he was like, "Oh my God, you're going to watch that crazy sword movie with the original Dr. Dolittle?" And I thought, yeah, wow, that actually.
And then you thought, I don't really want to do that now, do I? I dreaded having to watch it because I couldn't find a copy of it anywhere. There was a copy on YouTube, and twice I tried to start it up, and I just, I'm not going to sit there and look on my phone at this film. And I was so glad when Kinte said, yeah, I really haven't had a chance to watch it either. Yeah, let's just drop that one. And that tells you how much I don't like that film even more, because at least Conan's sort of the original of this horrible, horrible genre. To watch the carbon copies is even worse. And like I said, originally I thought we were talking about Deathstalker, which made even more sense because it's Conan without all the nuance and subtlety and good sense. So,
at least Conan had some interesting attempts at choreography. There was it wasn't. Oh God, their sword fighting is so bad.
Yeah, I was gonna say, but attempts, sure, interesting.
They did attempt to put it together. There were movies around this time that didn't. That definitely didn't.
That fight scene that Kinte showed was probably the most choreographed fight scenes.
That was awful.
All it is awful. Conan hacking his way through. It's like, oh, yeah. I mean, they're not even doing the "hey, let's aim at each other's swords" thing that you do. That every other sword fight you see is. He's just hacking, which I guess maybe is more realistic as far as fighting goes, because you don't want to be sitting there jousting with your enemy. You want to kill them and go on to the next one as quickly as possible before you get too tired and get killed yourself.
See, that's the thing. The thing is, I feel like they couldn't make up their mind between, is Conan just a mindless barbarian, or is he somebody who's got a little something under the skull cap? And because they couldn't decide which way to go,
Arnold made sure that they didn't have to go that way, because he could not do the dialogue without sounding ridiculous. So he basically sealed Conan's fate into being a big dumb brute that murders.
But obviously what they had written was at least they tried to hint at the idea that there was some rattling of intelligence going on up there. It never plays out.
I was going to say where did that inkling of intelligence show itself? Because it didn't.
It didn't.
I found the skeleton by Crom. You were a king, now I will be a king. Steel, smash, smash. And apparently all you got to do to get rust off a sword is hammer it against the rock. And that'll make your sword better as opposed to blunting the edges. Who knew?
Oh, come on. Those are trivial reality
His father was a
details.
sword maker, so I guess he knew that skill.
Trivial reality details. They have no place in a world of magic. None. Yes.
Magic rock, magic sword, magic rust.
Oi.
But-
I will say that the Conan remake, at least, did pay attention to the fact that his dad was, a master smith, and I mean, at least they tried to do backstory.
Well, no, they did this in this film. I mean, his father had some decent dialogue in the beginning.
The most interesting part of both films is actually the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, actually, the scene, I'll give credit where credit's due. The scene where these guys come through the forest was actually well done. It had a neat kind of look, where young baby Conan is out in the woods, and that one guy hops up on the thing, the berserker type, and he's looking kind of creepy and doesn't see Conan. But
oh yeah,
and then all of a sudden the horses go flying over him and everything, and they go through the village and destroy it. It's like, okay, that's well done. Even the scene with the mother and and when her head's lopped off and the shot is just on Conan, the baby Conan holding their hand, and the body drops away. That was well done too. So I'll give credit where credit's due. And then the rest of the movie happens, and yeah, then it's like, well, at least I get a nice soundtrack. If I turn off the picture, or better yet, just go online and find the soundtrack, I could enjoy this film.
Remember though, John Milius was the writer for Apocalypse Now.
Yeah. Did you see his original ending for that film? Basically, Kurtz and Willard basically go off and they're going to fight them all with the machine guns, and they fight off the entire North Vietnamese army in this huge standoff thing. And it would just go, hey, all the rest of this film build up to that point. It's like, Milius is what's the best?
Dirty Harry.
Yeah. Milius has his style. He's a very conservative dude as far as writing goes, with some very conservative ideas, and most of them end with your protagonist has to murder the shit out of something for it to work.
Oh.
And everything becomes better. Now, Dirty Harry at least had some nuance, and I think Dirty Harry worked because of Clint Eastwood, because of his performance, and Robinson's as well as the killer made it an interesting film. But you notice, I mean, the whole Dirty Harry franchise worked because of Eastwood.
Right.
Even the weakest films were like, okay, but I like the character. He makes what would be an unlikable fascist type person into an interesting character.
He's really good at doing that.
Yeah. That's his bread and butter, is basically taking really horrible people and making them likable.
Right.
That feels like the premise of...
It's Clint Eastwood as Hitler.
Pull that up, and I would have been rooting for him in the end.
That feels exactly...
Fight your way out of that bunker, Hitler. You don't deserve this.
Exactly what you just said is exactly how I felt when I watched the Clint Eastwood one called Play Misty for Me.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God.
Oh, yeah.
I felt like he was so unlikable, but by the end of the movie, you're like, oh,
what about the big guy?
Well, yeah, because that psycho woman was so much worse.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess in comparison. You know what? I had never seen Kinte. I had never seen The Beguiled until I saw the remake and then realized that it had that it was already done. I had never seen it. So I only just saw Clint Eastwood in The Beguiled,
I think that was his first movie,
like within the past 2 years.
His first directing, I believe, was The Beguiled, wasn't it? Or Play Misty. Or it was one of those.
I thought Play Misty was his
Play
first.
Misty. Okay, my bad. I got it. Yeah. So,
but yeah, that's see how much we love this film. We're talking about Clint Eastwood films right now. That's how good Conan is. That we're talking about anything else but.
I feel like it's a natural extension to jump from Conan to Play Misty for me.
Right,
totally
similar.
That
Very
works.
similar.
In this case, for the first time, I'll say thank God for John Milius, because he got us out of Conan for a little while. We could have even gone to Apocalypse Now and had some interesting conversations.
Yeah. Well,
because it's really, let's be honest, we've done an hour. And there's really not much more you can really say. And I hate to say it because we got to fill 2 hours, but there's not much you can really say about this film after this. We've said everything, all the high points and everything. We could maybe talk about Max von Sydow's character. Really? There's nothing there. Save my daughter.
I was excited when I first, because I didn't even know who actually that person was, right? But I remember people around me being really psyched to have Max in a movie, and I was so excited, and there was like nothing there. Like, what? What am I missing?
I love Max von Sydow. He's in some really great crap and some really great films, and he's got his own style. I mean, a lot of people didn't like Needful Things. I love Needful Things just for him alone.
Mm-hmm.
His version of the devil was awesome. I just loved him. He was just like, and it's, hey, wait, that guy played Jesus, and he's playing the devil. How awesome is that? What kind of range does this actor have that he can play both of those characters
comfortably?
Yes, comfortably. Are they the same?
I liked it. It was that was
when
so
he gets to the pearly gates, they're gonna be like, "Oh, you played Jesus." Wait a minute.
Oh, and you played the devil.
Go down the stairs.
And I played both well.
They're like,
all right, Max, go on in.
Take the elevator down.
By the way,
he'll just be in purgatory forever.
Yeah, by the way,
he'll be in eternal purgatory.
Yeah, I made sure that we get to see him next season, by the way, because one of the films he plays the villain in that I picked.
That's true.
So,
and
one of my favorite Max von Sydow characters.
He also was in The Force Awakens, right?
Oh, yes, he was.
Right? Yeah.
He was smart enough to get himself killed right at the beginning of the film.
Right.
That's right.
I'll do it as long as I get killed before this film is over. That's 5 minutes. Okay, thank you. Get me out of this franchise. And there's a little Max von Sydow doll out there somewhere you can get, action figure.
Okay, so let's do this. We can
find another movie to talk about.
No.
Well, let's talk about the upcoming season.
No. Okay, first let's put Conan in a bit.
Oh, can we?
Yeah.
Let's dig a hole and throw the body in there and hope nobody finds it.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm not going to go through all the things. Let's just kind of wrap up Conan.
Okay, please.
Is a mummy and toss him.
And don't forget to put that stuff on his face and hope the resurrection does not work.
They ran out of magic, so it's not going to work a second time.
they spread it all over his face.
Okay, so if you had to watch Conan the Barbarian one more time, what beverage or food would make it much better? The experience.
Arsenic.
Huh?
Arsenic. Because then I know I'm not going to make it through the entire film. I will probably die. It'd be painful, but less painful than making it to the end of that film, which I tuned out of completely. It's like, oh, here's the exciting conclusion of Conan.
If I was going to do this for Movies Make the Meal, I would recreate the giant soup that they had in the harem room.
Yeah, the pointless soup that they showed over and over and over again.
I don't know what the hell was
for
going
no reason. Like you're thinking, oh, this is something. Maybe he's going to boil them all, or so, this is going to be the way they escape. No, it's just so that some guy can spill it over and a head pops out, and that was it.
And it was so colorful. Like, wow.
Oh, wow.
And it would be pointless soup, is what we can call it.
And then I would also make I would make some kind of crescent roll or a pizza dough snake, because those are super easy to do, and you could have a lot of fun with that. And then you could use, tomato sauce for some blood. I mean, I think that could actually be pretty fun.
But you're missing all the rapey bits. So how are you going to do that for your meal?
Well, okay. No, probably that's not common.
I would have a pizza shaped like a wheel.
Shaped like a wheel.
Hey, that could work. You could have a cheese wheel.
There you go.
You could do brie.
Except for instead of eating it, you have to push it around and let other people eat it.
That's what you do with brie. So I feel like
when
that
the last
totally
brie is gone, you can stand there and go, "My whole life was meaningless up to this point." Because that's what I figured. That was the whole interesting. I'm watching it.
Actually,
that guard. Wait, they're wondering about his life choices.
Wait, actually, I think what you do is it's the person who consumes the last of the brie is crowned king.
For no reason. Just
For no reason. Well, you finished the brie, so
you
sure.
earned it. You
Yeah.
finished the brie.
Yep.
And
There
you
you go.
murdered everybody else in the house.
Sending debris.
I think that's I feel like that's fair.
I don't think you can say debris.
Debris.
Much like the script.
Yeah, I think that could actually work. Yeah, that could totally work.
You notice there's some films that we can talk about and we can, as bad as they are, we can find things that are good in it. And this film, I think I found one nice thing to say, which was the opening scene. And even then.
It's so funny because this film, we don't watch this, right? But the second Conan, I think we probably watch that once a year. It always comes on either Sundance or IFC or one of them. And I have no problem watching the second one to laugh at it. And really, and I don't mean to laugh at it like to mock it. I mean like it's actually funny. It's just stupid fun. But the original Conan, it's too serious to make it fun. Yeah. It's too weird and like, I don't know, like you said, skeevy. It's got too many crazy things in it that just make you go, yeah, okay, no.
Yeah, like what the hell are you thinking?
At least in the second one, Grace is in there, and I could watch her. I like the presence of that character. As stupid as the character was, I really like the presence of that character. But that's the second one. It's not the first one. Just didn't, and there wasn't even. The other thing is, unless you're talking about how the Queen gets Conan to participate, which is ridiculous anyway, there was really nothing from the first one that, even with the characters coming back, that helped to give it a sense of continuity. Mm-hmm. You could see Conan as a second movie and it would stand all by itself with no problem. You don't need to see the first movie to know what's happening in the second at all.
And you don't even have to watch the first film to know what's happening in the first film.
Well, you usually don't, actually.
Big dumb man hack his way through people.
So I have to amend Movies Make the Meal then on that, because in some ways I think that a huge amount of liquor before you watch the movie might be in order.
Yes, because if it can make you pass out before the opening credits are finished, you got it.
Wow.
You can watch that film. Conan will be your cup of tea, because if you can fall asleep just after Conan's mom dies, you don't need to see the rest.
Well,
you gotta get, the credits are rolling, going, oh, I don't feel good.
No, get to the wheel. Just get to the wheel.
No, because I really feel bad for the guy who's sitting on top of that wheel watching these people. Because
I don't. He has job security.
But it's a pointless job. I mean, you think day in and day out. You think their lot in life is terrible, where they're pushing this thing. Hey, at least they're doing something. He's standing watching them do that. I mean, that guy has got no pride in himself. He's like, who's going to volunteer to do the most pointless, useless job in the group? Oh, that would be me. I'll do it. Okay, what do? Stand on top of this wheel and watch these guys push it around. Oh, what do we do? What are we getting with the wheel? Nothing. They're just pushing a wheel around.
Maybe it was punishment for doing a bad job someplace else.
And then your punishment, watch the wheel. Oh, God, no, wait. How long? Until the last one leaves. How old are the ones? Oh, 5 or 6, the average age. Oh, they'll all die before they're like 10, right? Because of rickets and malnourishment. They're going to go be big, beefy men. And at least one of them will. And he'll be pushing that wheel for 20, 30 years.
Look, maybe Conan ate all the other ones, and maybe that's
why they're all disappearing. Wow.
Yes,
how did he get to them? He's strapped to the wheel. I guess when they collapsed, he would they drop him off, and he'd kind of grab one of them. Or...
Maybe that explains why there was no magic left, because there was magic involved in him getting all of that together. So by the end of the film, there was nothing left.
Yeah, to get that beefy, he has to eat a lot of protein, and there was nothing. He's pushing a wheel. That does not make you instantly big, bulky man. That basically breaks your back and destroys you.
That is definitely the weirdest premise of the entire movie. How he got the way he was. That is the weirdest thing.
And somebody thought that was a brilliant idea. It's like, well, if we push him, he's pushing this wheel. That means he's building up his muscles, and this will make him big. It's like, no, that's not how you build muscles. It's not just. Arnold
Also-
will tell you he ate a lot while he
Yeah, I was just
you
gonna say-
need to put this in to get that energy to bulk up like that. You cannot just simply push a wheel with a lot of resistance and you will turn into a big giant bulky man.
Right, I was just gonna say, isn't there a whole lot of irony in the fact that the bodybuilder
No.
is the one who plays the character that basically turns into? Yeah, no, there's something really strange about that.
Yeah, like what would really happen to the person is he would be stooped over, his back would be all shot because the muscles that were building up on him, that what would build up, would be in that position of pushing, right? Because he's constantly having to put all that force in. So his back muscles would be all messed up. He'd be like walking around like this really hunched over freak with these weird legs and just,
So he'd look more like the cave troll from Lord of the Rings.
close, except for not as big.
Yeah, except for
More
not
like
big.
Gollum.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Well,
probably.
that wouldn't have made a very sexy movie.
Was this a sexy movie?
Well, I'm just saying, I think they thought it was.
Yeah.
Clearly.
Yeah, you know. Hey, at least the witch thing was consensual. Before he threw her in the fire.
That scene still messes me up. It still messes me up.
But it's
Even
not
all
as
these
bad
years
as-
later, it still
Well,
messes me
okay,
up.
hold on. What is it about it that messes you up? Is it
I
him
don't-
throwing her
I-
into the fire, or
I don't know
turning
exactly.
into a monster? Which is like, I guess that's sort of like a symbol. Yeah, sort of like symbology here of the bad dates. I think is what the writer was going for. You know, you're out there, you find this girl, you take her home, or she takes you home, and you're a little drunk, and then suddenly, as you're sobering up, you realize who you're with. You're like, "Oh my god!" And so this is the Coyote Morning, where you gnaw your arm up, say good night. What the hell was I thinking? That
Oh
I
my
think
god,
that scene symbolizes.
that actually hurts. I mean, that physically
It's
hurts.
not a good thing to say about women. But I don't think this film really has anything good to say about women. I mean,
No,
hey,
it doesn't. It has nothing good to say.
Was Plainface was she had no character, but at least she was sort of a, hey, I'm doing my own thing, going strong. I'm not stupid enough to kill the snake. I was going to actually, you know, be thiefy and stealthy, but you guys do your thing.
There's also the whole that love story made no sense to me.
Oh yeah,
At all.
because he's got no personality.
I mean, why did she even fall in love with him in the first place?
Maybe she didn't. Maybe this was just a purely, you know, her getting her thing, and he's the closest thing around. She had either him or porn stash. What was it? Sonny Bono there.
Sadoko?
Yeah, Sadoko. Sonny Doko, because he had
Oh my
that
God.
Sonny Bono hairstyle, and I think that was, you know, she was like, okay, I got this or this, as you know, these are the guys that no matter what happens, if I can't find anybody at the end of the night, I got these two. Well, I got Conan, and that was it. So she's just, you know, keeping him along just so she can get her needs met.
But she died for him.
I don't think so. I think it was just that she happened to fall into the wrong place while that arrow was flying. She didn't go leaping towards it, you know. She kind of just, she got it in the back, remember?
Oh yeah, that's true. I don't know. For some reason, I thought she actually
Sacrificed herself?
Yeah, or something.
You know what? It's foggy on me. All I remember is the whole idea of a snake being drawn out into an arrow and then shot being the stupidest thing I've ever seen.
I do remember that.
Yeah, and then they pull it out of her back and it's still stiff. It's like, what? What?
Did that
magic? Is that magic in this? Well, I can make a snake stiff, and then I can shoot it like an arrow. Wow!
But did that make the
magic you got
arrow?
there.
Did it make the arrow? Did it make it like? Was there better marksmanship attached to it because it was a snake?
Magic. It's snake magic.
Like-
That's all you need to know. It's
Ooh.
more deadly and more accurate, apparently, than an arrow. You got snake magic. It's like, I got a quiver here. No, hold on. I got to grab this snake and straighten that sucker out. Fire. Wow. That's some fantastic snake magic you got there, sir.
Is it so it could be venomous? Am I just asking questions that just
You're
have
asking
no
questions.
answer?
Stop
Yeah.
asking questions because the writer didn't ask these questions when he wrote it. He didn't think about these things. He thought, snake arrow. Yeah, that's way to go, me. You did a good job. Yeah, you wrote something fantastic people will remember for life. This is the scene that I will be remembered for. James Earl Jones takes snake, turns it into an arrow, and fires it.
See, but I can definitely see some person writing that going, oh my God, this is going to be so amazing. People are just going to go, whoa.
Yeah, it was John Milius.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
He was probably holding a gun while he was typing that, too.
Ugh. Seriously, that there's just something so insidiously awful about some of the ham-handedness in. I mean, the dialogue alone is bad enough, but there are things that happen in this movie that really make you wonder. I actually thought originally when I first saw this and then had reflection time on it as I got older, whether more than one person wrote this because it seemed so fragmented.
Or they took a bunch of treatments and just glued the pages together, I think. I mean, you got to think about it. They might have had more dialogue for Conan. They got Arnold Schwarzenegger, whose English was suspect at best. And they said, shit, rewrite everything. All the other characters, except for the main character, have to be where the dialogue is at. Anything that's intricate or requires some explanation or that is supposed to be remotely intelligent, we have to give to all the other characters. And that's how that. So I'm assuming maybe the first few drafts, Conan is saying some wicked stuff where you're going, okay, he's a barbarian, but he's intelligent. He sort of knows what he's doing. He's crafty. He's smart. He's tough. He's everything. And then they said, we got Arnold Schwarzenegger. And they said, okay, who's this guy? He's an Austrian bodybuilder. He was in Pumping Iron and Hercules Goes Bananas. And he's got a thick accent. And this is like, you have to realize this in America in the 70s and 80s, because movies made the early 80s. And this is when they took Mad Max and dubbed all of the actors with American actors because they figured that Australian accent would be too unintelligible for the American audience. So when you've got this Austrian guy coming in, they're going, okay, yeah, we got away with Sylvester Stallone's mumbling. I don't think we can get this by the audience.
Sylvester Stallone's mumbling. Oh my God.
So they had to do a massive rewrite. I'm guaranteed they had to do a massive rewrite to give all the dialogue to the other characters.
So
Conan even more dumb than he is in this film.
I wanted to just while we're on the topic,
talking about this stupid movie. Go on. Sorry.
I just while we are on the topic of how this stuff happens, right? I want to say that in 2018 there were a couple of movies that came out which used the same weird formula as this kind of, which is like really no formula,
right?
And assumed that just because people wanted to see a movie that they would forgive any of the plot, any of the things that just don't make sense. Just trust us. This is how it's supposed to be. Yeah. And
you mean typical Hollywood film these days?
Oh my gosh, it's like it's rampant now. As much as I wanted, because I, have this love affair with the actor, as much as I wanted to be like, oh yeah, okay, a new Scorpion King is coming out, I couldn't understand what was going on in the movie. It was so, it was stitched together with the kind of, like, I don't even know what to say about it. I can't even say it was stitched together. I feel like somebody just took Scotch tape and said, well, here, maybe this will work here, and maybe this will work here, and let's just throw in some kind of being. And
you think it was bad for you as a viewer? Imagine you're the editor of this thing, And if it's, everything's thrown together by committee and then the producers are coming in saying, no, add this, we need this. Oh, we can't have this scene. You got to change this around. Hey, do something about this scene to make it less this. And we need to make sure we're getting this rating. Oh, by the way, studies show that in China, they like to see this thing here. So make sure this is put in the film. I don't care how you do it. And you're the editor and having to take that and all the notes added and everything else, and then throw a film together. Nowadays, it's a wonder any of these films come out looking good.
I feel bad for the actors because I'm sure that they do not go into this thinking that they are going to make a really awesome, horrible B movie.
No,
I can't imagine that. And you can feel that people are giving a lot to a performance that is clearly just never going to go anywhere.
Well,
and it's sad.
Yeah. Well, look, there's this movie called
Warcraft did that for me, by the way.
I'll take it to the other side, the cheapest side there. You've got the Neil Breen films that are out there. I don't know if you've seen any of those. And if not, we have
throw me a title.
Double Down.
I
Am Here.
Oh yeah. Okay.
So they're just awful, but everybody in there, and these people are not actors by any shape of the imagination, are doing this because there's two things going on. They want to be part of something like, I'm going to make a movie. Let's all make a movie. This is great. Oh, I get to be in a movie. And there's a lack of self-awareness that's in the director, writer, actor, but even in the people that are doing the role, they don't realize that the material they have is not good, and B, the talent they have is lacking, that you can't just make up for it by pointing a camera and trying as hard as you can. I mean, as much as I sometimes like to slag actors, there is definitely a talent in an act. A skill to portraying somebody in a way that comes off as realistic, that comes off not looking like a stiff weird, like what everybody does when they act who doesn't have any talent. But that's the bottom end of it. Then you take it up higher, and some people with moderate talent are doing the same thing. They're still producing crap, and they don't realize it because some of these people have studied, and some of these people have been working as actors, quote unquote actors. So they've been in commercials without speaking parts, or they've been extras or whatever. And then they get their chance, or maybe they've been in enough TV shows and everything with a couple of lines here and there that they can, I've got this skill. I'm an actor. I get paid to do this job. And then they get put into a major thing. And then all of a sudden it's like the lack of talent and the lack of direction shows. And it's, it's rare. We have to, praise the really good films because it's rare. If you think about every year, most of the films that are being produced, especially now you got stuff that are going direct to streaming and everything else, are garbage. And not just fun. Like we at least there's films we watch that are fun.
Right.
Most of it is unwatchable garbage. Most films that come out and go, especially this time of year right now, this is the garbage dumping season. January, February. This is where you go to the theater. If you go to the theater expecting to see anything worth watching, you've been conned again, and you don't remember last year, because nothing that is released at this time of the year is worth watching. Nothing. You go to the theater, you're going to see garbage, crap, and stuff that was made 3 or 4 years ago that they can finally release and say, okay, let's just finally get this off the books. Let's just throw it together and throw it on the screen. And that's the majority of films that are being produced.
But I mean, there's a certain, like you said, and part of what I think is sort of the fun part of Cinema du Fromage, right? Is some of the movies, most of the movies actually that we watch, actually there is something kind of cool underneath, right? There's a veneer of something that's entertaining.
Yeah, because sometimes it could be just the idea that's behind the movie, and sometimes that's a good leaping point, and that somewhere technically they failed. Or they're not all bad films. The stuff we watch are just cheesy films. They're not necessarily, this is an awful film. Like
right.
Westworld is not an awful film. Westworld is a cheesy film because it doesn't date as well, but there's had some very interesting ideas and some stuff in it that was interesting and made it entertaining. and that's the thing. If it's entertaining, it's usually because there's either decent ideas behind it or something that has failed in such a bad way that it's fun to watch.
So that's the difference between Conan the Barbarian and Conan the Destroyer. And because I'm totally not saying that Conan the Destroyer is any better of a film in the sense that it's not, you're not going to get any, there's no tick up in cinematic quality or anything, but it is a more entertaining film because at least it's like they threw caution to the wind and said, if this movie is going to be about magic, let's just make it be about magic. I mean, there's no point in doing this halfway. That's when,
as opposed to the idea where they should have said, "There's no point in doing this."
Yeah, well,
stop there.
Yeah, they should have.
We made money on the last one. Let's see what we can squeeze out of this one. Okay.
But 2018 was just filled with those kinds of. I don't know whether it's just that now that I have DirecTV, I'm starting to see stuff go direct to video on demand, and so I'm more aware of it. But
because now traditionally, like, this was the season for dumping your garbage. Now you can dump it onto your Netflix or any streaming channel. Prime, Amazon Prime Video. There's a lot of garbage on that, and it's a lot of stuff that's dumped. It's like, we need content. We'll pay for this. What is it? It's a remake of Mary Poppins with androids and pterodactyls. Good.
So, a really good example of this, which is oddly along the Conan line, is Netflix did a one shot with Chris Pine in it. And see, it's so memorable I can't even remember the name. But
at least you remember Chris.
At least I remember Chris. It was he's the king. It's during a time when there's like the succession. It's supposed to be what really happened with the William Wallace thing, right?
Okay.
Where you have kind of the you've got Scotland and England, and things are sort of broiling, and you've got militia forming, and it could have been a really good idea to cinematically unfold in front of you, and instead it is insipid dialogue that doesn't go anywhere, and this ridiculous story of what I think they're trying to say is like a love story that feels like it's got zero depth, and it ruins everything that could have potentially been okay about that movie because they pay attention to all the wrong things. And similarly in Conan, if they had done even a tenth of what they should have done to the source material, it might have walked away being a little bit better. But
a small bit. The source material is not great.
Just a teeny bit.
I mean, the source material was beloved by some people, but those kind of people are in those Reddit groups that you just avoid nowadays.
Yeah, they're hiding underground.
Yeah. There's, I'm not going to say which groups, but we know.
I can think of a couple.
Yeah. Yep. Well, milady, I'll show you how the door with my sword. Oh dear God! He tips his fedora knowingly and winks.
Going back to the let's see how much money we can just milk out of every single thing. Do you remember when Rome, everything Rome was a thing?
Oh yeah, and Rome was a great series. I was so sad when they finished after the second season.
And then a whole bunch of movies sort of tried to copy some of that success and
without knowing what the reason it was successful for. Yeah, and
exactly.
That is the biggest problem with most films nowadays. Is or especially remakes. They say, okay, let's take this film. What is it? And they look superficially at it and they go, "What? This is successful. What about it? Oh, it's set in Roman times. Oh yeah, okay. What do you got in Roman times? Gladiators. Okay, we'll have a bunch of gladiators and some Caesars and we'll have intrigue, but we won't write it well, and we won't have any kind of depth to our characters, and we'll just throw it out there, and there you go." That's like, it's like watching Game of Thrones.
Oh, don't diss on Game of Thrones.
The first few seasons, when it was based on the source material, which was well written, interesting plot and characters, great. As soon as they ran out of the source material and took over, it's like a bunch of fan fiction that suddenly goes, okay, what is really good about the first seasons? Well, there's unexpected deaths. Okay, let's write some unexpected deaths. There's magic and dragons. Yes, let's do that. Okay, magic and dragons. Okay, here we go. And zombies. Yeah, and let's have it where they go and they capture the zombie to bring it back. Okay, let's do that. Yeah, we've had like 5 seasons of people making their way down south. Seasons, years and years. And in one episode, they fly there and back. And I'm like going, what the hell is this crap? And why is this plot? This plot makes no sense. This is garbage. People are now doing things for no reason. And why is this guy living when he should have never survived that? And and that's what happened. When you got good source material and you've got intelligent writing and you're basing it on something where it's based on character actions and everything else, that makes good stories. If you've got interesting characters and all the actions that seem to come from the characters, so that the motivations, everything makes sense, you get a good film out of that. If you have characters doing things for the sake of doing things, then you get crap.
See, I actually am on board with that, because I was a huge fan. I shouldn't. This is going to totally make me seem like a complete dork, but I really liked the Sicky Stackhouse Southern Mysteries. Right, I read them a long time ago. I actually read them when I got sick because I was just down for like a couple weeks and I had nothing to do, so I just read them one right after the other, and I liked them. Feverish. They were fun. They were silly, but they were fun. Okay, and then when HBO was going to make True Blood, I got super excited about the whole idea. Like, wow, this could actually be really fun. And the moment that they veered away from
the source,
what was right, they created the whole vampire league, the I don't know, whatever, that stupid council, and it just got so ridiculous
because they always think more is better, and sometimes it's not.
I'm gonna say that actually I think that what happens more often than not is that writers, and God forgive me, right, I'm trying to do this myself. I've got 3 in various stages of completion, which I really would like to finish. But there comes a point when even I recognize that my own hubris in what I think is intelligent awesomeness is really just a cry for help. It's really just a time to sit back and go, wait a minute. This is contrived. It doesn't even sit right. And I just get this feeling from a whole lot of writers, not all of them, but a whole lot of them, that they think that they are being so clever. Mm-hmm. And that cleverness does not translate to the screen.
Yeah.
Right? Does that make sense? I'm not dissing on writers as in general, because I mean that's would be really bad for me.
Sometimes the best writers are the ones who know when to stop themselves. They know they edit themselves heavily, so they'll go so far. And I'm sure even in their first drafts, they went off on these weird tangents, and then they go back and they say, "Wait a minute, what is the core of the story?" And then they pare it down to that, and that's what makes a good story or a good book. Because I find I love to write too, but there's not a single thing that's probably ever going to get published by me, because it's because I start and then I go and then I think, oh wait, this would be good, and then I go on these tangents, and next thing I know, I don't have an ending in sight, and it's just going on forever. And I was like, okay, wait a minute. Now, what would have been, if it were a short story, 30 pages has now become 300 and it's gone nowhere. And I thought I was and it's like, oh, I've just wasted all this time because I went on these bizarre tangents into nowhere, and I got, oh, wait, I'll add this and I'll add that. And it's like, and that's what happens with bad writing, is where you just don't know when to stop yourself and go, okay, what is the core of the story, and does this serve that purpose, or am I just writing for the sake of writing, and now I'm no longer doing serving the story well?
Well, and that's in film especially, right? Because in TV series, it's just a different animal, right?
You gotta fill time is basically.
But in a movie, there is no excuse, to me, there is no excuse not to be both as concise with your scene building as possible and as really picky, which is something that feels like it was completely within the purview to happen back when Conan was made. Because if I look at other movies around the same time, not Conan movies, but movies that were just good at the same time, there were good movies.
Oh, yeah, there were.
There was excellent writing happening around that time.
But as I said, there were tons and tons of bad movies that came out that year that you haven't seen or don't know about because they were that awful.
Clearly.
I'm thinking, if I want to think of something, 1988, a movie came out so that was the 100th anniversary of the Jack the Ripper murders. And a movie came out, and I remember seeing it, and I'm going, no one ever talks about this because it was so awful. It was called Jack is Back. And it had nothing to do with the Ripper murders. They basically said, hey, let's tack on this, and because it's the 100th anniversary of Jack the Ripper, we could put a film together. And it was a terrible, terrible, horrible mystery murder that was just awful. And I remember it only because I was so angry at spending money in the theater to see it.
Wow.
But it's one of those films that I don't think anybody has ever heard of or talked about because it was so bad. It came, it went, it was gone. And I probably watched it in January too, now that I think about it. So, but that's the thing. There are tons of movies, and I think everybody's had that experience where they've seen this one movie that nobody knows what you're talking about. I mean, we all go see the blockbusters because we're all supposed to. But there are a lot of films that people go to see that, let's go see this. This is kind of interesting. And it turns out it was just garbage. And you go, oh. But nowadays they're doing it in their own home.
Or
so if you're going on Netflix and you're watching something and you go, oh, that was the worst piece of garbage ever. Or
if you're like me, sometimes you'll watch certain actors or actresses because you like them. But just because you like the actor or actress, it does not guarantee that what you're going to see them in is going to be good. And that is, to me, that is it's not just a huge problem like overall. It goes to show that a lot of this comes down to something that is outside of their ability to control. You cannot control bad source material.
It's a collaborative thing. So for a movie to go wrong, everybody's going wrong somewhere in that movie. It's very rare that you'll find a movie where the acting is just amazing, the script is amazing, but somehow the editing has ruined it, or the lighting was wrong, or the direction was kind of wrong, but everything else was amazing. It's a collaborative a project that every piece is off somewhere, and that's where you get, or there's no real effort to make something good. They're just trying to make something, so they're churning out a film.
Attack of the Killer Donuts.
I never heard of it, but okay.
Oh God. Okay, this is the third time that I brought that up and somebody hasn't heard about it. Man.
I know Attack of the Killer Tomatoes.
Yeah, well, think
That's
about
my
Attack
favorite.
of the Killer Tomatoes, but make them donuts.
How come we didn't add that to our list, by the way?
Attack of the Killer Tomatoes?
Actually, it would have been Return of the Killer Tomatoes, starring John Austin and George Clooney.
That was good. That was actually really good.
It was actually funny. And
it was.
And it's got one of my favorite scenes, meta scene, where they're talking about how they're run out of money for the movie, and they start doing product placement. And it is so funny to watch young George Clooney sitting there talking, and he's sitting he's got his chair turned this way, and he's holding a can of Coke so you can see the label. The guy turns his chair to face him, and he makes sure he turns his hand in an awkward way so the label's still facing the camera. That is a funny joke. That was good.
I remember that. That was good. Yeah, we should definitely put that on a list.
But yeah, maybe for season 4. That would be season 4.
That would be season 4.
By the way, Kinte has been strangely quiet this entire time. He's probably fallen asleep.
I'm kind of wondering. Yeah. Well, here's the thing. When we talk about Conan, we're guaranteed to put somebody to sleep. So apparently the casualty this time was Kinte.
Yeah, well, we're running out of time. He's supposed to wrap this thing up to go on to the next bit. So,
well,
that's his job. He's supposed to be moving things along.
We have 10 minutes, and I think I'm not sure who's next. Shannon, are you next? I'm wondering if Shannon is next, actually, but I'm not sure. Yep. Okay. So
there you go.
So Shannon,
stay tuned for Shannon,
can pick things up and move them to the next room when she's ready. But one quick thing I just wanted to say. I think that this season of Cinema du Fromage is going to be really fun. Based on the choices, I really think we've got some fun times.
Do you have the list, by the way, in front of you that you could rattle off?
I don't have the list in front of me, but there's some good ones. There's some gems.
Oh yeah, no, we picked some good ones, and there's some that I haven't even seen. Oh, hold on,
I know you didn't see the car.
No, I have not.
You're gonna hate me. You're gonna go, oh my god.
You know what? Every time you make a pick. Sorry, I had to answer a text for work stuff. But every time you make a pick, yeah, I learned to hate you a little bit more. just putting that out there.
I'm sort of
trying
feeling...
to see if I can find the list here from, because I'm sure we have it here somewhere.
I'm sort of feeling like now at this point that's kind of my job. My job is to basically be like the movie choice foil.
Oh, you're doing it. Oh boy. Hold on.
No, it's good. It's all good. I'm totally.
You keep talking while I try to find that list.
I can keep.
That's your job right now.
I can keep the mantle of being the purveyor of the worst of the worst. I get it. It's totally fine.
No, not the worst of the worst. But yeah, I still can't forgive you for burnt offerings. As much as I hate Conan, I hate that film so much more. Oh, with pancake face
but it's memorable, so it's indelibly burned into your psyche.
That's not
now.
A good thing. So is like having a 3rd-degree burn or having a digit removed. That's memorable too, but it's not something you want to go, you know what? I like remembering that happened.
Wow, I think I've just been compared to a torturer.
Remember that kid in 4th grade kicked me so hard between the legs that I threw up? I remember that too. But you know what? It'll never end, that memory. Oh, you're waving. Why are you waving? I'm lost.
So
Sorry, I'm still tired.
I don't, although I don't have the list, I do.
I know we're starting with Rollerball.
Right, we got
the James
Rollerball.
Caan version, not the remake, the original, which is one of my favorites, and I'm rooting for that one to make it to the end, but I doubt it. But because the first film always gets the worst treatment.
It does seem that way.
So we should put The Car as the first movie. Now that I think about it,
hey.
So we can beat that one up and then move on and get a little less mean.
Don't be setting up my poor movie for insta failure.
Okay, I will.
Besides, I can think of recipes for movies make the meal for Rollerball. I don't know about doing The Car. I'm gonna really struggle on that one.
Rubber tire stew. There you go. Hey, we had someone ask here's a good thing to chat about for a few minutes here. Godfather 3, hit or miss?
Ooh, that's a tough one.
No, it's not. It's not tough at all. Godfather 3, if there was no Godfather 1 or 2, would be an okay gangster film. Otherwise, it's a waste of time. Stop with Godfather 2 and leave it there.
I liked Godfather 3, but I almost liked it as like its own standalone entity.
Well, okay, wait. What parts of Godfather 3 did you think were worth watching?
I think exactly what you just said. I think it's the nostalgia of going back and sort of re-experiencing Godfather 1 and 2.
No. If you want to experience Godfather 1 and 2, you watch Godfather 1 and 2. You don't watch this horrible film with bad acting and terrible design, character choices.
It was bad acting. It was.
And even worse, none of the characters made any sense because they weren't the same. I know it's supposed to be, it's 20 years later, they changed. But there is no way that Connie would go from where she was by the end of Godfather 2 to being, I am Lady Macbeth all of a sudden. It's like, where does that come from? You know what? That's a discussion unto itself now.
It's definitely one of those. It's well, I shouldn't say it's controversial.
And Angie,
it's not
yes,
really
it was called the
controversial.
death of Michael Corleone. It was also the death of any chance that that franchise was ever going to go anywhere after that. And it shouldn't have been a franchise. I think the sequel was like, oh, really? You want to do a sequel to that? But I thought it was a superior film. But it told the story that it needed to tell. You didn't need to go further than that.
Yeah, that's true. I do agree that that's true.
There was nothing said in Godfather 3 that needed to be said.
That's why I'm saying that it's kind of like, to me, it was just like revisiting sort of the memories.
That was Francis Ford Coppola saying, okay, I've had nothing but a string of garbage films since Apocalypse Now, and because Apocalypse Now was probably his greatest film, and it broke him as a director. I don't think he could ever top that. And that film, if you watch Hearts of Darkness, you can see it literally destroyed him mentally, making that film, and it was pure genius. And then at the end, he put out a bunch of mediocre, weird stuff and some experimental stuff that didn't quite work, and Godfather 3. And I saw that in the cinema, and I remember watching and going, finally I get to see a Godfather film in the cinema, and I was so disappointed by the end of it.
Oh, see, and I didn't see it in the cinema. I actually saw it at home. We rented it. So maybe that's what. So even more time had gone by, because movies didn't used to come straight out. It used to take a long time for them to come out.
I think the only thing that I enjoyed of that movie was when Coppola's daughter got shot. Sorry I spoiled it, but it doesn't matter. It's a terrible film. Don't watch it. Stop at Godfather 2.
It's a terrible film. Don't watch it.
It is. It's not a good film. There's a couple of interesting moments, but overall it's terrible. Like, for one thing, the one thing they did in the first two movies is like, no Italian stereotypes. And in Godfather 3, they've got Tuco himself to come in and do the worst Italian stereotype. And they're going to cheese and what's that? I was like, what the hell are you doing? Olive oil.
It was very it was not well acted.
It would have been as bad as it would have been as bad as if in the first Godfather they actually went with what the producers said and had Robert Redford play Michael Corleone.
Oh,
that was what the producers originally wanted. What the studio wanted was to make it modern, so set in the 70s, and have Robert Redford as Michael Corleone.
Oh, Andrew wants to know
that film
whether
would have been. Where are they now? They would never know. Sorry, go ahead.
Andrew wants to know whether it's better to watch Godfather 3 or Batman versus Superman.
That's a tough call.
Well, I didn't get seasick.
I didn't
get seasick watching Godfather 3, so I'm going with Godfather 3 because I got seasick watching Batman versus Superman.
The cinematography and everything, like the visuals are really nice in Godfather 3. They're just totally wasted on a bad plot and terrible acting. So that's a tough call. It really is. But I don't know. Batman versus Superman, at least they've got that one thing you'll never forget. Why did you see Martha? What a great way to turn a character around. And to be honest, I do like watching super beings smashing each other into walls. Except for in Man of Steel, that got a bit much, and I got bored after a while. You got to have the right amount of smashing, super beings into walls and floors and ceilings and smashing them into space. So it's a tough call.
I was never tired of Batman and Superman until Batman versus Superman, and then I was done with them both.
You know what, though? The sad thing is there was bits in that movie that could have worked. I think Ben Affleck would have made a very interesting Batman. I think he had a good look and interesting take on the character as an older, grizzled kind of, Dark Knight Returns kind of Batman, which they were going for. And not in this film had they taken him, because he does some of the best stuff in this film except for that scene. Some of his stuff is really good. His Bruce Wayne is very interesting. It looks like he's trying to detect, but it's like, except for when he has to punch tires and everything to get strong enough to beat Superman, because that's how exercise. It's like the wheel in Conan.
Mm-hmm.
The tires punching tires is like that wheel in Conan. It makes you super strong.
Agreed.
Hey, we got 1 minute left, so that means Kinte should have jumped in by now. But hey. Who needs him for this show?
Shannon, are you queued up for the next room?
Because we'll be taking it over there. And hopefully you folks enjoyed what we had done here. And watch Cinema de Fromage. We're going to do Cinema de Fromage coming up in this year. I don't know when we're starting. Probably March, do you figure?
I'm not 100% sure, but someplace around there.
Someplace around there. Hey, I'll do what Kinte does. Where can people get a hold of you? And your, all the social media stuff and everything that you do.
Well, if you really want to find me, you can find me on Twitter at followingbliss1 and can hop over to my website at moviesmakethemeal.com. That's about it for me right now.
Okay. And for me, I got a new website up with a whole bunch of stuff. Professor Psycho's moviemadhouse.com. I've just finally got that started up. It's got a bunch of movies and some shorts and some podcasts and stuff. If you're really interested, go there and see what kind of garbage I create.
Nice.
And with that, I think we can take it away to the next place. And thanks for listening, watching stuff. Are we done?
Let's see.
Because now I'm just staring into space.
Oh, it's still recording.
Well,
okay.
Welcome back to hour 3. Thanks to Kinte, we're left hanging. Yes.
We'll do a deep dive into Conan the Barbarian costuming.
No, we will not. We are not going to discuss Conan ever again. That movie has ceased to exist in my mind. The last thing I need is Conan.
More Conan in your life.
Yeah, no more Conan. Not even Conan O'Brien. Nothing Conan in it. Arthur Conan Doyle, I don't care anymore. You're out. You don't exist.
Yeah,
Sherlock Holmes.
Fun fact. I have a cat named Conan.
Doesn't exist.
I'm going to tell him that. He's going to probably have an existential crisis.
How can you tell that which does not exist that it does not exist?
That's a Schrodinger's cat issue, isn't it? Wow.
Sort of.
Well, I'm not going to break it to him. I'm just not. I'll just ignore him and we'll see what happens.
And now, please say the other guys are running now because we're in that awkward state right now where we're kind of still babbling with nothing to say. It's like the end of a bad date. Yeah, it's nice to see you too. Well, I got to get up in the morning and go somewhere.
Wow. I find that actually sort of offensive.
I don't mean that about you. I'm just talking about in general that awkward stage where you know you're going to finish things and you don't know how to do it. You're fine. I keep talking to you, so it's okay.
Well, that's true. I mean, you could have left the chat a long time ago. That
Absolutely.
would have been really awkward.
I could have gone right now and just, you're on your own.
Oh, God.
Keep them entertained. How do we find out if they're on now?
Let's see.
Well, it says no one's here, so who's here? No one.
So, did they move to the other room? I can't double check this on my computer. On my phone, it will make me leave the chat to do it.
Okay. Well, you're on Skype though.
No, I'm not. I called directly in this time.
Oh, clever! Because we're gonna leave Kinte here just hanging. Yeah, the last thing I see from Kinte is this show, and I don't know what's going on.
Let's see.
Nobody's responding, and nobody's in the room.
Well, they could just take over. I mean, they could take over in this slot, right? I guess.
That's true. But they've all left the room, so I'm assuming somebody has opened up. But I see somebody just come in. Tracy J. For those who are here, we think the other show has started, and we don't know, and so we're stuck here.
It'll be on the top level of Get Vocal. I'll check. If it's not, then I'll come right back. Hold on.
Okay, so now I'm here by myself, entertaining the world. So you could sit there and watch me stare at the computer for a while, or I could cite some sort of a poem or something as I wait for Jenna to come back to tell me whether or not we can go because the other show has started. Because Kinte has disappeared. For those who've just tuned in, Kinte is MIA. We think he just fell asleep. We're not sure. And so because of that, I'm sitting here talking to myself, by extension talking to you, and filling up time. This is not what I call entertainment, but nothing I do is. So you've got that. Jenna is going to come back and let me know whether the other show has started. And once we know that, we can go. And if not, we're going to find a different topic to talk about. And hopefully it'll be more interesting than me talking to you right now by myself, which is not interesting in any way, shape, or form. You could watch me text, or I could show you my fish tank.